Hey friends, it's time once again for Once More with Feelings. I'm Michelle.
And I'm Beth, and this is an emotional journey podcast. Before we get started, I want to say it's easy to get lost in what's happening right now. Voting rights, climate change, the things that are very important to everyone. Your personal rights, your right to bodily autonomy. Trans or cis, your right to bodily autonomy seems to be heading up the leaderboard for things they want to take away. Think about the parents of a trans kid in a state where they're trying to ban gender-affirming care, and they're just trying to do what's best for their child. They want to see them thrive. They want to see them alive. They want to see them be. And suddenly they're fighting not just for their kids' happiness, but now for their very safety. And it's through the children that they come for the adults. And not just trans people, but they come through, the children for cis people as well. And that's how they get to cis women's bodily autonomy, is through the children. And you see it everywhere. It's the immigrant families facing deportation, the person with disability that's struggling to access health care now, the young person who's terrified about the future of our planet. That's why I want to bring up indivisible.org. At its core, it's really about empowering people, giving you the tools to fight back with, to make your voices heard. I signed up onto Indivisible so I could get notifications, so I can find out what's happening in our areas, because as you know, Michelle, I have really been worried, very much so about the entire world, but mainly about our place in it right now. It's not just about winning elections, that's definitely part of it, but it's about trying to build the communities where everyone feels seen and where everyone feels like they belong to something greater than themselves. Because, let's get real on this, many people feel like they're being pushed to the margins, and that's what we are. We're marginalized. When we're out of sight, we're out of mind, and we're the ones that get left behind.
It's true.
It's not just a political problem, it's a human one. And it needs to stay a human problem. I know that it's been made in a political thing, but your bodily autonomy, your ability to make choices for your own rights and for your own life is not political. It is a human right. And we all need to be able to make those choices individually, free from government control.
I have students whose parents keep them home now because they're afraid of sending their kids to school and having them taken.
Right, because they could be deported, they could be put into an asylum, anything could literally happen to these children.
Oh, definitely.
And to us. So it's about saying that you matter, that your story means something, and that we're going to fight. We're going to fight back against the things that are happening. And you don't have to agree with me on politics. I'm not asking you to agree on politics. What I'm asking you to do is remember that we're human beings, that we matter as human beings, and we should be treated as human. You should have compassion for your fellow human. No matter who you are, you should be having that compassion. That sense of solidarity that we're seeking, that we're in this together, is why you need to be a part of things like Indivisible. It doesn't have to be Indivisible, but that's one of the sites I found that has a lot of information and is actively trying to make itself heard as a group, as a focal point. It's a platform where you can be a part of this. So I'm just asking for you to give it a chance. Go to indivisible.org and take a look at it. It's obviously not going to, make you a part of a party of any kind, a political party. It is about having your voice heard and fighting back against fascism. I know that word gets thrown around a lot, but we're seeing it in action right now. It's no longer theoretical.
No. And the people who are suddenly surprised by the things that they're seeing, I kind of have no pity for it, because it's not like we hadn't said it was going to happen. It wasn't like the people who were doing it didn't say that they were going to do it, that they weren't going to do it. They said straightforward, this is what we're going to do. So anyone who's out there surprised, I don't care, I just have no pity for you.
I don't have pity for them, but I do have compassion for the fact that some people learned the hard way, and maybe they thought it was something completely different than what it was.
Maybe, but
I'm not accepting of any bigotries, but what I am accepting of is learning your way out of that bigotry.
I mean, I understand, and I do have the compassion for somebody who learns to be better. But these sudden changes of heart upset me. But that's me.
Well, I can't say that I had a sudden change of heart, but over the years, I grew up in a southern town. I was very racist. I was also very there was no real LGBTQ per se. In my perception as a kid, it was just gay people. And even though I am who I am, I was very much against all of that because I didn't want to seem weird. I didn't want to seem outside of it. I don't make any apologies for changing my mind later on.
No.
You learn when you
learn.
Yeah, when you learn the things that you learn. If you can still look the other way after learning that makes you culpable.
I think it's like I said, it's the sudden, not the slow and gradual. It's the people who just refused to listen for so long. They're the ones who make me very, very frustrated. Also, you said you were raised in a more conservative situation. I wasn't. I don't think I was raised conservative. I was raised by people who told me and taught me to care for others and to be kind and to be a good person. And I did. I tried. And I may not be perfect, but I've always tried. And I never understood hate for the sake of hate. Especially when I was told that if you hate somebody, never say you hate anybody. Because if you hate a person, that means you want them dead. And that's what I was raised to believe. So when the people who raised me are being very hateful and supporting hate, it's very confusing.
I think something that it's easy to lose sight of is that a lot of times that hate is very small, but what it's turned into is a lifestyle. So the hate is there, and it may be a very small seed, but it doesn't matter how small that seed is if your lifestyle has adapted to just being that hateful thing. Your hate may not be any more intense than it ever was before, but you've bought into the lifestyle of being a white supremacist or being, a cis-het transphobe or
and I think that's what it comes down to. It was to be kind and to be a good person, but only to other people who are white, and anybody who is not straight is a joke or a butt of a joke. So
it's a cultural situation.
It really is. And, the things I look back on and things I saw, I should have known. But regardless.
But it's not just that. We're talking about economic issues. We're talking about a lot of things that promote the situation that we're in. We need to be able to fight back and to have a say instead of just being pushed to the side while a small, very loud group gets to make decisions.
And that's what it comes down to, is that regardless of what you believe in, you should be allowed to have a voice. I don't have to agree with you or your opinions. I have my own, and obviously I'm quite opinionated. So, it doesn't matter what your personal opinion is. We're being shut down. We're being stifled. We're not allowed to speak regardless. But they're allowed to talk because they're part of the group that's trying to make everybody quiet. So even if you don't believe in what we believe in and you are part of the other side, watch what you say, because you might be shut up too at some point.
Yeah, and that's what Indivisible is trying to do, is trying to get your voice out there. It's trying to help you organize, and that's something we severely lack, is that organization. a lot of the politicians have let us down in their leadership because they think that leadership was really about just sitting back and making votes, and that's it. But leadership is about organizing, about directing, about being preemptive instead of reactionary. Indivisible.org. We're going to put the link in our show notes. I will also put it on our webpage. So try to take a look at it and see what you can do to help your situation. If you're in the U.S. especially, I know there's a lot more countries in the U.S. Right now, we're in the U.S., so we're kind of focused on that. But in your own countries, if there's fascism, if there's something that is not right, you have to organize and you have to do the right thing as a human, not as a political maneuver, but as human beings on this planet.
And remember that we're not our country. Like, we're a part of a country, but we are not all that, so not everybody.
Well, you can't say that about anyone. No one
is their country. So I don't look at other people who live in countries that are like, they've got this dark shadow over them, which United States of America. I can't hate somebody from where they come from.
So I've had my soapbox. I hope you'll forgive me for that interruption. But that's not what we're going over in this episode.
No, nothing like that.
What is it we're doing today?
So today we are going to discuss and talk about our feelings about the Joel Schumacher 1987, I would say, classic.
It is.
To quote Mr. Schumacher, I love this.
You haven't actually said the title.
I know, and I'm doing that for a reason. Okay. To quote Mr. Schumacher, vampires are hot. They're the only erotic monsters. Frankenstein is not hot. This movie is Lost Boys.
So 1987, I was 17.
13.
That tells you the years we were born in right there.
Yep.
I was angsty as all get out. At this point in my life, I was looking to go into the military. I'd already signed up. I was early enlistment. And I was angsty as hell, and I thought the military would get me away from my very small southern town. And yet, I'm in a small southern town. So really, we always come back
Full circle. Well,
not really. I mean, I'm not in the same state even, but it's still a southern town. And I do kind of enjoy our little southern town.
I like our little town.
So this movie, when it came out, I was all about vampires. So I had not read Anne Rice.
Yeah, I had not either.
I had not seen any other real films except Nosferatu. You had your monster movies.
Monster, scary vampire movies.
Right. But they weren't, I didn't see them
Monster Squad.
I didn't really see them as sexual in nature.
No.
I think Lost Boys was the first one that, for me,
made vampires sexy.
It really did. But the problem I have with Lost Boys, and this is not a review because we're not a review podcast, is that it's so firmly cis-het normative.
Oh, yeah. And even the people of quote-unquote color are white people.
Oh, yeah. I mean, very much so.
It is not a diverse cast. So definitely...
it's 80s in many ways.
It is very 80s. But other than it being a very white cast of very heteronormal people, I didn't find fault in it. Again, it was like Tremors to me. It's no Tremors, don't get me wrong. It did not hold the, oh my God, I forgot how amazing this movie was, like Tremors did. But it also did not disappoint me in the way Short Circuit did. So, for me, I do not remember seeing this in the theater. I think, again, this was another HBO special, because that's most of my movies I saw on HBO.
You were young, so obviously when you saw it, it was going to be somewhere accessible to you.
And I remember watching it with my best friend at the time, and we were basically living off of our love of Stand By Me. So we were obsessed with Stand By Me. And mostly it was Will Wheaton. Because I don't know what it was with Will Wheaton being the little Weasley guy. And well, I was a River Phoenix fan. But Corey Feldman was in that movie. And I never really found him to be like, even from like when I was a 13-year-old girl, I didn't find him to be like a heartthrob or anything. He was cute, but he wasn't River Phoenix, and that was a pretty boy right there. But I had on the back of my wall, my bedroom wall, it had the door that led out of my bedroom, a space between like a little bit of a wall, and then the door to my closet. And I had Will Wheaton, River Phoenix, and Corey Feldman. Pictures from Tiger Beat and all those teenage girl magazines all over that wall. This movie made me anxious because it was vampires, and I was not sure how I was going to deal. I was never a scary movie kid, and I'm still not a scary movie person. I was excited because it was the first time we were going to see the two Coreys together, Corey Haim and Corey Feldman. So it was a two Corey movie, and I was kind of excited about that. And I was kind of wistful. I wanted to be Star. I wanted to be, I wanted to dress like her. I wanted to be a part of the vampire crew. I didn't want to be the bloodsucker, bad guy. I just wanted to be a part of those pretty boys, the whole crew of the cute guys there.
Well, before we go too far, let's actually give the synopsis for it so people know what we're talking about. So Michael and Sam Emerson, who moved to with their recently divorced mother, Lucy, to the coastal town of Santa Carla, California. They soon discover that the town is plagued by a gang of vampires led by the charismatic David. As Michael becomes entangled in the gang and starts exhibiting signs of vampirism, Sam teams up with the local vampire hunters, the Frog Brothers, to save his brother and rid the town of its undead menace. And that is courtesy of something, probably Wikipedia. I can't remember where I pulled it from.
Well, we do have Sam Emerson, that's Corey Haim, and David is Kiefer Sutherland. So, this has got a classic 80s cast.
It's definitely because Corey Haim, he's no longer with us, died in 2010. And I know that because I definitely didn't wait for you to look it up so that we could find out.
Editing.
I know that the two Coreys were inseparable after this.
They met during this, and they were excluded from a lot of the parties going on with the adults during the 21 whole days that they took to film this movie.
I think there was a lot of wine.
So they kind of got to hanging out and
literally upside down. Yes.
And, Corey Feldman would play music because, he was really into that. And he still is.
Still is, apparently.
And they started their friendship. And, I can't... Hollywood did them dirty like it did a lot of young actors. And I can't fault them.
So as a young trans woman, completely in my egg, when I saw this movie, I focused on Jamie Gertz, who plays Star. I focused on her character so entirely that I actually didn't even recognize the movie. I had to watch it again. 2 days later, I had to watch it again. I saw this in the theater, so I went back and watched it again.
Nice.
Because I was focused on her. She is so stunning. I know we say this a lot about actresses, but she's
beautiful.
So she is like a sculpted, her face is sculpted.
The one thing that always blows my mind, and I notice this as really like every stage of my life, I've noticed this. And every time it hits me, I'm always like, what? So when you're younger and you look at people of a certain age, you don't always, I'm not saying you don't definitely find them attractive, but you don't always find them as attractive as when you are around their age and you see them later on and you see pictures of them, you're like, holy heck, that person is beautiful. Diane Wiest, to quote Charles Boyle, I had a Diane yeast infection.
A
Which
yeast
sounds so
yeast
disturbing.
infection?
A Diane yeast infection. I could not do that right, even when it still sounds wrong.
You tried, though.
Oh, it sounds so bad.
Diane Wiest, who did Hannah and Her Sisters.
But she's
Another
so
good film.
beautiful. I just never appreciated.
And she's so soft-spoken.
Mm-hmm.
Not just in this movie, on pretty much every movie. I don't even know if she raised her voice, if it would really register. Because she did raise her voice in this film.
She did.
At the end, and I still wasn't sure she was yelling.
Yeah.
She's so soft-spoken that I think it would be really hard for her to call for the police for help. Because I don't think they would realize she was calling out of fear.
Yeah.
Not that she can't act. She can definitely act.
Oh, no, she can act.
It is about her. She has a softness of character.
She really does.
Of this gentleness of nature that she exudes all the time. It's very weird.
This movie also made me fully realize at a very, very young age that I had a huge attraction to jawlines.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Not
there are a lot of people
there's
in
a lot
this
of
film.
amazing jawlines.
In this film, there are so many jawlines, it's going to make the tick jealous.
But Jason Patrick's jawline in this movie, wow.
Right?
I mean, all the vampires have interesting, but his is like that diamond
and
shape.
Jamie Gertz, though, as well, with the jawline. She has such a sculpted jawline.
And baby Kiefer Sutherland.
I know. He's adorable. I know this is a thing where people have said this, and I'm going to agree. I am going to agree with this 100%, not because it itches a gay spot within me where I'm like, oh, it's satisfied. They missed it. Joel Schumacher missed it. The writers missed it. My issue is Star was completely unneeded. As much as I love Jamie Gertz, and she is beautiful, she is completely unneeded in this film.
This movie may not pass the Castellini.
It may or may not. We'll find out. But it just didn't. It didn't need her to be there because I think the more interesting notion would be Michael and David.
I agree.
Michael and David have this simmering, underlying sexual tension that pulls you in so early in the movie. And you're like, when Star gets on the bike with David, when they first meet up with Michael,
yes,
when they're looking at him, I'm like, I am struck with just everybody needs to have sex right now. And it's, I know, the gayest thing I've said tonight, but it needs to happen. And Star's just there auxiliarily, as a tertiary character within the sexual triumvirate. Okay? I'm using a lot of words right now. I have a lot of feelings. But I think what they missed was a deeper, and I know this is, I did not know this was a comedy. First of all, I had no idea. I thought this was just a horror film with some levity that's thrown in, just like Star Wars always had. You're not going to call Star Wars a sci-fi comedy.
A space comedy.
Yeah, it's not. But it has levity in it, and it's always timed wrong. In this film, there's comedy that is surprising, but not out of place. It is actually well done. But you never know when the comedy is happening until it happens and it's already over.
And the most comedic character in the whole movie is Grandpa. Bernard
Who kicks ass in this film, and he's barely in it.
Yeah, Bernard Hughes. I mean, his timing is like perfect.
I don't know what he's been in. I just couldn't tell you. I just know
I stopped looking those things up, and now I don't know.
I'm saying I don't know what he's been in. It doesn't really matter because if you step outside of Grandpa, I don't know what you would do with it. So I like his character. I think his character isn't needed, but I think definitely it blends the California alternative thing. It blends that into a realistic anchor.
I kind of think Grandpa is needed because who kills the head vampire?
I'm saying that he's not needed because anybody could kill a vampire.
Yeah, but
that's not really the
Grandpa
issue. The issue is he needed to complete the film? No, he is not.
But then who is going to say the great line?
Yeah, but we're not talking about that.
I know. I'm just being a butt. Okay.
I'm talking about the actual theme of the movie itself doesn't need Grandpa in it. He's there as an older parental figure.
Well, but as you were saying about David and Michael, you and about 300 and something people over on AO3 agree with you because there's about that many fan fictions.
Yeah, and I get that. It's all about the sex and the story behind it.
Not every fan fiction is about sex.
Yeah, but let's face it, they're focusing on the sex with these two. What I'm talking about in the movie isn't necessarily about that. It's a simmering underscore of tension that they build up.
Mm-hmm. I think that, I mean, maybe I just haven't watched enough Kiefer Sutherland movies, but I feel like Kiefer Sutherland is the type of person that would have sexual chemistry with anybody he worked with.
I don't know. I mean, I've seen him in films that he doesn't really have that connection
Maybe
with.
that's it. Maybe it was just the vampire Kiefer. Also, it was the placement of the teeth and the vampire teeth.
Oh, yeah, they did an excellent job.
We've seen a lot of vampire teeth, and even like, Twilight, I'm going to throw it in here. I have to. Yes, they're supposed to be sparkly, sexy vampires, but they didn't have those front pointy teeth that just, there's something about having those teeth in that placement that to me just changed.
Because they were closer together than the fang teeth.
They weren't the eye teeth.
Right.
With the teeth right next to your front. Yeah.
Yeah. They made it part of it. I don't know.
Or maybe it was the eye teeth. I never get them right.
It is the eye teeth that they use.
It's not the canines.
It's not the canines that they usually place them on, which are the ones that are natural extenders.
Yeah, so that would be your like.
We've been watching a lot of Bones. This is going to get bad for everyone because we're going to say phalange a lot now.
Phalanges.
And I love Bones, but so the thing is, when they put those close together like that,
it changes it.
It changes the intent of it. So even though this is supposed to be kind of funny, and it's not really scary, you still got this underlying feeling that this is dangerous when they finally do show up. And I think that, again, we're not reviewing, but I'm going to tell you at the very start when Cry Little Children.
Oh, yeah.
Is it Cry Little Children?
Yeah,
Cry Little Sister. Cry Little Sister comes on, and it's got the children in the choir. Yes.
Yeah.
And when they're singing that, and the camera is flying over Santa Carla or Santa Clara.
It's Santa Carla.
Santa Carla, yeah. Fictional town in California. When it's flying over the boardwalk, you really get the sense that this is actually the vampires flying. Yes,
definitely.
And they keep that theme throughout where you don't see them fly. The only time you see it is when Michael does it. Mm-hmm. But when they're flying, it's from their front, first person point of view.
Yeah.
And
when they're fighting at the end, then you'll see them like flying, but more of like a jumpy flying.
But that was all at the end.
Yeah.
In the start and in the middle of the film, you don't know how they look. You don't know if they're turning into bats. You have no idea what they're turning into.
And like even when, except for the scene when they're trying to get Michael to drink the blood and they're at the what is it, the biker party.
Right.
That's really the only time you see them actually attacking somebody. It's like the first time you see them attacking somebody. But until that point, there's this weird like camera angle thing where it's just kind of like jarbly and everywhere. And I kind of appreciate the simplicity of that because you get the chaos of an attack without actually the attack. Again, I am not a scary movie person, so this stuff makes me happy.
But they don't have to show it because it creates that tension from the attack without actually displaying it. It actually makes it even higher because you don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
You get the screams off camera, you get the door flying off, you get all these things that are happening, but you don't see the actual attacker or the attack.
No, yeah, definitely. And it's just, it to me, it gave it just a nice little, again, I had no idea it only took 21 days to make this movie. So looking back and like, or
makes
watching it
sense
now,
that
you're
they
like,
did it that
yeah,
way.
it would,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. But also, I just thought it was awesome.
But you can tell where they spent their time, like with Michael's flying. You can tell where they spent their time on the practical effects and things like that. When they had those, out of those 21 days, they probably spent a lot of time on these final scenes.
Yes.
But in the start,
And the makeup.
yeah.
Yeah.
But that's again towards the end of the film. But at the start of it, they go almost, you're wondering where the vampires are.
Oh, yeah.
And when they're walking through the boardwalk and they're on the carousel, stuff like that, they actually back down to like the security guy.
Oh, yeah.
They're not outing themselves as vampires right away or anything like that. They look like a Christian rock group.
But like you get under the impression that they're just like they're the hoodlums of the area.
Yeah, and they walk
just,
through in
I
this
told you
little-
not to come around here no more.
Well, they
you know?
no, they don't. They really don't do that. What they do is they just walk along, gliding kind of through people and teasing them, poking them,
And it was
starting little fights, but not actually doing anything
Yeah.
with it. It's the long game is what they're playing.
Yeah.
So they're just riling up their food, which I think is actually what it's doing is creating that tension. And I think it's for a comedy horror. Mm-hmm. I think that is done really well in the fact that you don't know who the bad guys are yet. Even though those are the bad guys, they're also fighting with bad guys too. None of these guys are good.
No.
Like these are all ruffians. And even at the first of the film, what they're showing you as the family is coming to Grandpa's house for the first time is a montage of like the counterculture in California.
Yes.
And immigrants, all the things that white people find scary in their lives, they kind of show in a montage.
Yeah, and it's Echo and the Bunnymen singing "People Are Strange," which is funny because in the hotel where David and the other vampires live, the beaten down old, it looks like a cave.
Jim
I'm sorry,
Morrison
it looks like a cave. But there is a Jim Morrison poster. But in one of the boys' bedrooms, there's an Echo and the Bunnymen poster. So it was kind of like funny. It brought it back around. But so Santa Carla was actually filmed in Santa Cruz, California.
Right.
And so at one point, Grandpa, when they first move into the house, Grandpa makes a comment to them saying that it is the murder capital of the world. Santa Cruz was once known as the murder capital of the world because between 1970 and 1973, in a 30-month period, 28 people were murdered by 3 different serial killers. John Linley Frazier, Herbert Mullen, and Ed Kemper.
I think I went to school with all 3 of them. No, I'm joking.
I listen to a lot of true crime. And
you listen to Morbid. You can just say you
Morbid.
listen to
Okay,
Morbid.
ladies, I love you. Okay,
I like them too. I think they're cool.
I listen, and I've listened.
And they say fuck so much.
Oh my God, y'all!
So many fucks.
They say fuck more than me, and I say fuck on. Oh my God.
They do give a fuck because they say it all the time.
But yes, ladies,
and I'm okay with it.
I do love you. Be my friend. So
Shameless plug. All right.
So can't help it. I love them.
So what they're doing is they're creating this tension with all these scenes in which you don't see what's happening.
No, you don't. Yeah.
The absence of those things creates that tension in you. And it also allows you, much like a book, that's what I love about books, it allows you to create the scenes in your head.
Yes.
Now, while I don't visualize things, I don't see them as a picture.
Yes.
Does that make sense? I don't see it as a picture. I see it as text. I create my own text. So I'm actually generating my own paragraphs to go with anything I'm reading to fill out anything that may be missing.
And that's kind of why I prefer to read a scary, scary, scary novel or listen to the podcasts, because I can paint the pictures the way I want them to. Even though they might be describing it very graphically, I don't see it as graphic because I get to temper that down, where in a movie, I don't get to do that. And then I have this image in my head that I don't want to see. Is my cat coming back?
He just jumped on the wing of your chair and now he's stuck.
He's not a smart cat. Y'all, this cat.
I love him, but he is dumb as a rock.
Oh, he is a dumb boy.
Pretty but dumb.
But I loves him. But yes, so
We say so enough, we can we can start a circle.
I know.
Sewing circle.
Okay. I'm going to pull I was going to say a Sam Winchester. So get this. No. No. You have your David Michael fan theory. I have my own David fan theory. It's not mine, but I agree with it.
It's going after Diane Wiest.
I will not make another Diane Wiest joke. Okay. This moment, at least. Okay. So, I can't not do it. My theory goes back to a movie I mentioned earlier, that David's name is not really David. David is a name that he took, because we don't know what his last name is. But
Right.
I think that might be his name that he took when he had to leave his town and start his life over again. That little small town
Oh my God.
that he grew up in, when he tormented a small
Are you
group of
talking about
boys.
Stand By Me, goddammit?
Ace Merrill very much became a vampire. He met Max when he got run out of that town.
I mean,
It
is a real possibility. If you really want to do the crossover, that is something that could happen.
That's my fan theory, is that David is really Ace Merrill.
If you do that, however, you have to accept the fact that other people in this film also exist.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing. The time period wouldn't work, and there are doppelgangers. All the time, there are people
Okay.
born that look
I'm just
like other
saying,
people.
if you're saying that Edgar Frog is...
Edgar Frog could be a descendant from, what's his face? Honestly, I wish I could remember his name.
Oh, you think he's his kid?
It could be his kid,
Because
or
you
it
never
could
see the
just be a
parents?
genetic doppelganger.
So the Frog Brothers, they own a comic book store, but their parents
The
actually
parents
own
own
it,
it, yeah.
and they run it for
Yes.
them, and you never see them. So
Weren't they the ones asleep on they were like asleep on a bench?
I don't think so. I think they... I don't know.
Vaguely
I
remember
really
that,
couldn't
but maybe
tell you.
not.
But yeah, that's a good theory. I mean, why not?
Yeah.
Why not have it in there?
And there's a little boy vampire too, and that's Laddie.
Yeah, Laddie's the strange little child who wears the Sgt. Pepper.
I know.
I'm
And
not sure where they got all of the clothing that everyone wears.
I mean, he's dressed like a Confederate soldier, a Confederate soldier's child, and yet his face is on the back of
looks
a
like
milk container.
Yeah, it looks like a Confederate soldier who is in a marching band.
Yeah, I mean, like I could almost accept the he might have been a vampire for a very, 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 very long time, except for the fact that his face is on the back of the milk carton.
Well, we know that he's a half vampire.
Half vampire because he hasn't fed yet. Right?
So-
Is that why? No.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
That's why. So the way it's positioned and the way I understand it, and I could be wrong, is that the vampire group, being David and the boys, they are all full vampires because they have killed after drinking the... I don't know if... Now, I'm not sure because I thought it was Max's blood that was in the bottle.
I think it is.
But now I think after watching it this time, I think I was mistaken. It might be David's blood in that bottle. Either way, Max is the head vampire. David is subordinate to him and beholden to him, and so are all the boys.
Yes.
They are all full vampires because they have killed after they drank blood, either Max's or David's.
Yes.
Now, Michael ends up drinking the blood.
And Laddie and Star.
Right. Well, they had already drank the blood.
Yes.
But they had not yet fed. Star was supposed to drink Michael's blood to kill him.
But she'd
and
rather have
she
sex with him.
And she was going to be, well, she fell in love.
In a day.
So everything happens like...
Within days.
It seems like within a day, but maybe it was a couple of days. But because they had not fed, Michael and Star and Laddie all... Did I get his name right, Laddie? I'm
Yeah,
surprised because I really wasn't paying attention.
She screams it enough times.
They did not kill anyone, so they are still half vampires and still savable. Mm-hmm. So they still were able to give it up if they kill the head vampire. You find that out from the Frog Brothers.
Yeah.
So that is, kind of the main part of the movie about 3/4 of the way through. But before that, you don't have any of that. You just have motorcycles for some reason kind of show up out of nowhere that everyone's got a motorcycle. Did you know that Michael had a motorcycle?
I did not.
I had no idea he had a dirt bike until
he had a dirt bike.
He had a dirt bike. And it was brand fucking new. Did they cut half of the movie out?
I have
because
to
it
wonder.
felt like a huge section is just not there.
I again, 21 days.
I know, but it seems like they had it and then they just took it out. Like it just edited all of that out.
So basically then the quote should be, the one thing I really hate about Santa Carla is the goddamn time warp that it is. I mean, I don't know, because it's nothing is.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that there's a lot of stuff that just doesn't fit into like when did this happen? There are things like the mother's, Diane Weiss, Lucy. Mm-hmm. Lucy's care for Max, Michael's care for Star, how all of these relationships developed so quickly.
Very fast.
And it seems like we just missed several days that were in the film and they just took them out without any kind of contextual, they didn't really mask it.
Yeah.
Where did he get the brand new motorcycle? It's brand fucking new. It's like gleaming and stuff.
I just also like that grandpa's a player, because he got lucky that one night. It looks like we both got lucky.
And he's got like 7 cars because he keeps showing up with a different one.
I know.
But so you see, all of this stuff happening, and in the at the start, we got Michael. By the way, if you want to play a fun drinking game, one that's just going to absolutely smash your mind, give you liver disease, if you want to hurt yourself with alcohol, play this game watching The Lost Boys. Take a drink every time someone yells Michael.
Yes, you will probably die of alcohol poisoning just as quickly as if you watch Doctor Who and someone said, reverse the polarity. Do a shot.
I firmly believe the writers were like, I need a filler here. And every filler, instead of ums, were Michaels. Michael. Not
No, that was me. Not umming, but my like umming. Okay, there's a difference between an and an
Michael.
Michael.
See? Every filler.
But see, every time you say Michael, I want to say Scott. I can't leave that hanging. It's Michael Scott.
So, turns out the sax guy, the guy playing the sax that Star is dancing to, and he seems to be gyrating.
Wait, was it Danzig?
No, his actual name is Tim Capello.
Okay.
He actually does play the saxophone. He is a composer and an artist.
Okay.
That's actually him singing.
Oh, wow.
Here's my thing.
Was he really? He was doing that sexy gyrating.
Well, obviously he was doing that. They didn't CGI
saxophone
that.
movement,
Yeah, they didn't CGI that. That was all him.
That's not. Yeah.
But it was so out of place and so weird to have this guy playing saxophone sexily on stage.
I mean,
Star's dancing to it, and I'm like, this feels weird. It feels like they just threw this guy in and said, sing something.
So I grew up on the Jersey Shore, as I've said before. Maybe I haven't. Here it is, first time. I grew up on the Jersey Shore. And so the boardwalks, Seaside Heights, that was right there. And I grew up going to that. So my 13-year-old self watching this movie, knowing that, yes, I know this is California. I know the boardwalk is different, but it's a boardwalk. And in my head, I thought that that's what my teenage life was going to be like, was going to the boardwalk, watching half-naked men play saxophones, gyrating on a stage. Vampires were going to exist, and I was going to dress like Star.
You were just on the wrong coast.
I was on the wrong coast. Yeah, when I went to California, I still did not get that life.
But you weren't on the coast.
But I was a teenager.
But you were still you weren't on the coast. You hit California and then stopped midway through.
I know. Sucks.
Lucky for me, sucks for you.
I mean, I got to go to the coast.
So Tim Capello is the sax guy. And that is what he's always going to be known for, I think. I mean, I'm sure he has had a long, illustrious career playing saxophone and singing or whatever it is he did.
Yes.
But he was all oiled up, and honestly, I think he was flammable. And I was very worried for his safety.
Oh, yeah.
This was like the musical version of Pickles. So
Plop, plop.
people just throwing quarters at him.
Right in their G-string. Just plop them in.
So it was just a weird break in like what otherwise was like this sweeping boardwalk scene where they just kind of flow through it. Mm-hmm. And then suddenly there's a concert with a half-naked guy gyrating, which I don't have a problem with. But he's got a saxophone. Kind of loses a lot of the appeal when there's a saxophone. Just like, okay, I guess he's just going to play sax at people. It's just weird. He's not even busking.
No.
It's a concert.
It's a concert.
No one paid
free
for
concert.
it.
Well, no, it said free up above.
Yeah, no one paid for it. I said that.
But also growing up on the boardwalk, we did have a giant carousel in an enclosed area. And me and my friends would walk around the carousel when we were allowed to go to this boardwalk by ourselves and pretend that we were like, the Lost Boys, like David and the guys, Marco and all the other nameless
Polo and all
and yeah. Marco played by Alex Winter, the other one who's not Keanu Reeves in Bill and Ted.
Which one is that?
The one who's not Keanu Reeves.
Is it Bill or is it Ted?
I can never tell them apart. They look alike.
I think it's Bill.
Possibly Ted.
Who knows? I actually don't remember much of that movie.
I don't remember much of the first one. And maybe this is the first one I'm thinking of. Maybe it's the second one. When is the one where they recite every rose has
Why are
its
you
thorn?
asking me?
Okay.
How would I know?
I will often do that, recite every rose has its thorn the way they do in the movie. And I just can't remember which one it was. But I'll do that.
Okay.
Because they recite it like it's like prophecy or something.
So something I noticed going through the movie again is how this is like on a personal level with each character. They all seem like they're acting in a different movie. Did you get that? Like Diane Wiest is acting
in a love story
way that is different from all the other.
She's very serious.
Their intentions all seem to be completely different from each other.
She's honestly too good for this movie.
I know, but all of them, like Jason Patrick, he is
angst.
But I'm not talking about their emotive states.
No, I know.
I'm talking about the energies they give off. Jason Patrick seems bored.
Yeah.
Corey Haim seems excited to be there, but doesn't know what's going on.
Yes, the bathtub scene with Corey Haim is my favorite scene.
It's a good scene.
I love him in the bathtub.
Completely breaks it up for no reason.
And he's singing, and he does the girl's part in that song, and it is so funny.
But the part of that is actually scary is that is happening. The reason, when that's happening and Jason or Michael is losing his mind to hunger as a vampire or half vampire.
And he almost attacks his brother.
He slams the side, the door frame with his hand, trying to hold himself back. And you're even in a movie that I don't find to be horror at all.
No, but that's
not
a pretty
really
stressful
comedy,
moment.
not really horror. It is a stressful moment where I'm like, oh shit. And it gets very serious.
Oh, yeah.
Despite or because of Corey Haim's performance in the bathroom, in the bathtub.
And that's it. It's like you're getting this, the tension is building because
completely innocent.
Michael is he's fighting the hunger and he knows his brother's there and he's fighting himself. Corey is in the bathtub. Sam is just in the tub and he's singing along with that song and his dog is sitting there. And it's like when he does slam his hand on the door, that's when Sam goes under the water, so he doesn't hear that.
Yeah, but you jump.
And the dog hears it, so it's the dog reacting. And so when he comes out from the water, he's getting the after effect of the fight. And I love when he goes downstairs and he sees Michael's hand is all bloody, and he's like, Nanook, and he's like, what'd you do to my dog, you asshole? And I love that. His brother's hand is bleeding profusely, and it's, what did you do to my dog? That's one of my favorite lines.
So yeah, that part of it makes you jump, or at least it made me jump.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that when that happens, you get this, like, it feels very serious in that moment.
Oh,
like
yeah.
you lose all illusion of comedy, of that levity that Corey Haim is providing when he's singing in the bathtub. And well, we got to give it up to Nanook, who throughout this movie only does like 2 or 3 things, but when he does them, he goes right for the face.
Oh, I know.
Every fucking time. That dog has no halfway mark. It is on or off.
I didn't realize how cliche it was having a husky named Nanook would be in my life, because I always thought that was such a cool thing. And now and then I was a dog groomer, so there was 1,000 Nanooks.
It tends to be
I always thought that was
huskies,
a cute little name for a dog. But again, I was 13.
If we ever get a husky, we'll name it Tenifer.
No. Timifer.
But yeah, I think that when you're talking about vampire movies, you think about the struggle of the new vampire. And I think that's it is a trope. And I think it was probably created by Lost Boys. I'm not sure, but I think that the half vampire trope kind of tends to be that struggle for doing the right thing. And you got to give it to Michael, who never fully goes over. He had his chance to go over, and he didn't do it because, well, first of all, that was his brother, and they do love each other.
Oh, yeah.
They may be assholes once in a while to each other, but they are family, and he doesn't want to hurt his brother, which was his initial struggle. Later on, he's struggling not to kill the people he doesn't know, but I think, he just doesn't want to kill anyone. It's not something he wants to do. Of course, in the end, he does kill someone. It's just a vampire.
True.
And we don't know how old any of these vampires are, because you're immortal once you become one.
And we don't know if there are other vampires, because again, if Grandpa's saying that at the end that's all the goddamn vampires, how many vampires are in Santa Carla? How bad is the infestation?
Yeah, because this was just one small group.
Yeah.
And how many did Max propagate before? But he did say the boys, as in this small group.
Yeah, so...
But there could be other vampires who are heads of their own family.
Exactly.
Maybe it's just easier to live it out in California and get by, because they all have alternative kind of like the counterculture look.
Yeah.
You can get away with that. Even Max wasn't standard. He kind of came in with really, I don't know what you call his attire. Is it
kind
new
of
agey, eclectic?
Kind of like 80s preppy.
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah,
80s
something
preppy.
like that. Yeah. So I think that it was just probably easier to fit into an area where you don't have the conservative thing, like it's harder.
So
to
yeah,
fit
you're
into
not
that.
you're going to fit in. That's like, I think the whole point of the People Are Strange scene in the beginning, when they're showing all the crazy people,
Right.
It's, and don't get me wrong.
I say crazy
love
people, but they're just
but I
people
am pretty
we know.
That's true. Well, I mean, the dude dressed like Fred Flintstone on the Sky Ride, and also the woman, I'm pretty
his
sure
name was Mark, and I've seen him several times.
I'm pretty sure that woman licked the rat. And you do you, boo. But I'm pretty sure that's what you see. But I always loved that scene, because again, I remember I was always the weird one. And in my friend groups, I was always the weird one. My best friend tried her damnedest to be quote unquote normal. And I knew she was just weird like me, but she just would not admit it. She liked the same things as me, but she would still fight it all the time.
Yeah.
And so that beginning scene, I think I connected with it immensely because of all of the weirdness. And it just made me happy to see. Like, I didn't look at them and go, oh my God, what a bunch of freaks. I mean, I'll call them freaks because, it's funny, and I'm a freak and I'm a weirdo, so whatever. But I just remember loving it. And yeah.
I mean, one of the main themes here, and it is, I think, with most vampire movies, is that it's that in which someone's being turned. Mm-hmm. It's that coming of age kind of trope.
Oh, yeah.
So, we're watching like Michael and Sam growing up.
Oh yeah,
Within the film. So they're having to adjust to the changes.
Mm-hmm.
Michael's changes to his body.
Yes.
It's like he started
when it's time to change.
like I said when he's floating above.
Oh my God! Yes.
Above the bed, it's basically he's getting morning wood. He's starting to learn that his body's
normal when his
body.
body changes at certain points in your life. You might float in the ceiling.
But it's an allegory for the puberty and coming of age, and we're all very familiar with that. So when that is happening to him, we can identify in some way.
Yeah,
everyone has that, universally goes through that situation.
And once more, a funny grandpa moment is you got David, who is a half vampire at this, not David, Michael, who's the half vampire at this moment, trying to leave his house when Max is coming over for dinner. The Frog Brothers are there. He's just trying to go do his thing. And Max comes and he's like, well, you're the man of the house. You won't come in until you invite me in, because that was what he needed. And it was Michael saying, sure, I don't care. He invites him in. And Grandpa slowly disappearing into the back of the house like Homer Simpson into the bushes.
Yeah, he closes the doors, slides them closed.
Very slowly, like, oh, man, they done did the shit now.
To be clear, in this scenario, I guess the mythos here is that they can come in, but if they come in without being invited, there are certain things they cannot do.
Mm-hmm.
So there are certain things that affect them more than others, like garlic and holy water and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But because they invited Max in, none of that works because he was invited in, so none of that holds power over him.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that angle of the lore. So I myself have a personal problem with the half vampire thing. So after seeing this movie, I became obsessed. See, I didn't know the half vampire part of this movie.
It's easy to miss when you're younger.
It is. But this movie kind of opened up the vampire lore to me, and I started learning about it. I've always had a problem with that, especially when you've got I'm going to throw two things that I know we've talked about before, but it's going to drive me nuts. It always drove me nuts. Blade and Angel. Not Angel himself, but his son.
Connor,
couldn't think of his name. And the whole thing with Blade.
You are welcome.
So my
expertise came into play.
So it's the whole vampires procreating or becoming a vampire due to an attack during pregnancy. A vampire is a dead body. It's a dead body.
Okay, and
they're not living.
But in Angel, there is a difference.
I know that was a different situation.
No, there's a difference. In Angel is a vampire with a soul, which changes that. And Darla was not a vampire at the time. She was human at the time. That's why.
Okay, so then Blade.
Sorry, I'm not trying to discount what you're saying. I understand what you're getting at.
Again, there's so many different versions of vampirism and the lore behind vampires and stuff.
And I
it's
think
hard.
In Blade,
his mother wasn't she attacked?
She wasn't knocked up by a vampire.
No.
She was
attacked
bitten while he was
pregnant.
in the womb and turned him into a hybrid.
I don't know. I have a hard time with it, but that's just me.
It's a comic book.
I know, and again, it's
suspending disbelief.
I also believe that there's multiple types of vampires. So not just
I
the
think
blood
we can
sucking
see that out in most of the movies. They all have a different version, hence the fang changes.
Yeah, I know. It's just always been a little.
And if they're sparkly or not. So another one of the themes in this that I noticed on rewatching it, because I didn't really notice it before, is like the family loyalty.
Yeah.
I didn't notice that before because I think when I was younger, I just wanted it to be more angsty. So I was focusing on the angst, but really the family sticks together.
And the brothers really, really care about each other.
Right.
Which was nice to see.
Here's my one issue. Diane Wiest. She was going to give it up to Max. The only reason she didn't is because her father was driving through the front of the house with a truck. That's the only reason. She was...
Well, wasn't it a thrall type of a thing?
No, it wasn't a thrall thing. She just did it because she got pressured into it. Unless that was supposed to be a thrall thing, but I didn't see that. Like, there was no change in her face. She just went, ooh. You know, like, ooh, this is gross. But she was going to do it anyway.
Well, was she doing it for the boys?
Maybe she was doing it for the boys. But it was just going to get them all turned into vampires.
Yeah. So
it wasn't really for the boys. She didn't try to fight them so much as she just kind of gave up. And that's always been a sticking point with me, is that when all this is happening, she still takes his hand. It's like, but maybe you're right. Maybe she was in a thrall of some kind.
Yeah, I mean, it was either thrall, but I mean, if it was me and it was the chance to save my children, I mean,
Is it a chance to save your children if you just give yourself to being turned into a vampire?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
But again, it is Edward Herman, and I'm sorry,
I just don't find... Honestly, I think I did find him scary the first time when I was younger, because you don't expect him to be scary.
Well, yeah, and I do, and again, he was scary.
I think the makeup was bad.
The makeup was very bad.
I think it detracted from the fear.
It was better for the other, for like Kiefer and all of them than it was for him. His makeup was just horrifying.
I think the more subtle they had gone with him, the better. The fangs and the eyes only.
Yeah.
Would have been a much better, like, impact.
Oh yeah.
Because you still see his soft face,
mm-hmm.
but the hard eyes and the fangs would have really pushed that out towards, really freaking you the fuck out that he is the bad guy. The full face of makeup just kind of went, is he a drag queen? What is he going for here? It looked like Nosferatu, but like not well done.
Yeah.
And
honestly, once again, I didn't realize he was a cute man. I mean, he wasn't like gorgeous or anything. He wasn't one of the like.
No, but he was cute. He was like a good looking, affable. He looked affable,
adorkable.
Yeah, he looked affable, like somebody you could like be friends with very easily.
Yeah, and but then as a kid, I did not see that because jawlines.
Exactly. So it's always the classic good versus evil in this.
Yes.
And you have several different points. You have Michael, who is fighting his own impulses for evil. But you also have the Frog Brothers, who are so combative with everyone.
Yeah, they're trained, they're training themselves based on comic books on how to become vampire hunters.
See, when I first saw this, I thought they were the ones that had written the books.
I did too. So there is,
but that is not the case, I guess.
No, and honestly, so the comic book, what was it again that they hand?
I think it was just murder all vampires or kill all vampires or something like that.
There was something about that comic book store and that magazine, but I didn't want to go into that rabbit hole where. I don't know if it's the owner, he bought like he when he relocated the actual comic book store that they used for the movie, that comic went with him. But again, I don't know if that's 100%, and I didn't want to go down that rabbit hole.
You think the mock-up comic books were taken?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, good on him. He's got a piece of film history.
So the one thing we did learn, and we did not investigate as well, was that there are sequels and TV shows to the Lost Boys, right? Was it a TV show or was it just the movies?
I don't know, but I think they're movies. There's a sequel.
Yeah, and
in which Corey Feldman is
Corey Feldman and his brother. Oh gosh, what was the guy's name?
the gentleman, the other frog brother.
Yeah, the other frog brother. I didn't write his name
know
down.
His name.
Sorry, dude. I wrote down Laddie's name, but I
mean,
didn't.
honestly, he just looks like
He didn't really do a lot after this, but
he just looked like maybe a lesser Karate Kid.
kind of, yeah. He had a bit of Ralph Macchioism, yeah.
Oh no, I was going with just Karate Kid, not the actor.
So Daniel's son.
Yeah. You went the whole route.
I went for the whole thing.
Daniel's son. Okay. But yeah, so we have that classic good versus evil, but within the movie you have these other eddies. Like if we're going to go with a title theme because it's on the coast, we have these eddies of good versus evil going throughout it. So even within the group of the vampires, you have Star and Laddie who are fighting their impulse. Whether or not that is by their nature or just by the fact that they had not been pressured enough by David to do so.
Maybe.
Because they didn't seem intent on really doing anything. And at the end, if you notice, Max said he had planned this.
Yeah, and
he had made all these plans. So in the background, again, I think we're missing a lot of context in the movie.
I have to wonder. Yeah, there's a lot of, again, 21 days. I'll keep saying that.
Yeah, you can say 21 days, but I think at least like 3 or 4 days was cut out of this film.
No, but
I'm saying of those days of filming,
I don't know why.
Was cut out.
I don't know why it only took them 21 days when you could have filled it in with a couple bit more scenes of explanation.
I don't know, and it could be that there was scheduling conflicts. It could be that there was a money issue. It could have been that the timing for the location had to be done within a certain amount of time.
True.
Who knows?
And again,
I'm sure people know. It's just not us.
Yeah, and again, this is no Tremors, but I wasn't disappointed.
I think there was a lot less sense of community. Like in Tremors, even though there's only a few people, 14, you got a sense that they actually lived in this town together, that they knew each other. They had individual conversations among each other, and they all had their own relationships with each other.
Yeah.
In this film, I know the family just moved here, but Grandpa's an introvert, but not an introvert. We have the Frog Brothers who are introverts, but not introverts. Mm-hmm. Or maybe just standoffish and conspiracy theorists.
I think they're conspiracy theorists, yeah. Can
be a little bit of all. And, Max, who owns a VHS store. If you don't know what that is, you can Google it. I'm not going to explain it.
With the RCA dog in the front.
Yes, we are all old and old things happen. It is an old movie.
87.
So, but we have all these things, but none of it has a sense of community to it. Mm-hmm. So that alone creates an isolating feel. Like when they all run to Grandpa's house, you feel like they're isolated.
Yeah, like it's in the middle of nowhere.
Right, which it could very well not be. We don't know.
Yeah, but it's funny that Santa Carla being on the shore, why does it feel like Grandpa's house is in the middle of the desert? And what is with all of the taxidermied animals?
And it's funny because they all came from Phoenix, but this seems more desert-like than what they dress like. I
know. They dress more California than the Californians.
Right. But, there's everything centers around the vampirism. Mm-hmm. And, one of those things is the fear of the unknown. And I think what was displayed well there is when they're hanging from the bridge.
Oh, yeah.
That part where you have the clouds or the fog right underneath their feet when they're hanging from the bridge, the trussless. And it's got rail cars going over them. Mm-hmm. So as the train's going over them, it's vibrating and shaking everything. And Michael doesn't know he's going to fly.
Yeah.
But the other vampires, they know they're going to drop and fly, and they'll just fly down. He doesn't realize this, and he's holding on for dear life, and I think he played that really well.
Oh, yeah.
You get the sense he's afraid for his life, and he knows he's gone too far. Mm-hmm. He thought he was going to, try to get in with them to show them up or to show them he has the medal, and he got in over his head, and he's about to die.
Yeah.
You really get a sense of the struggle in that and the feeling that there's this inevitability, this him trying to pull himself up and not being able to, which as a vampire, you think he would have had the strength. But I'm just saying,
Yeah.
he could fly, couldn't pull himself up. But let's smooth over that to go with the...
He doesn't know he's a vampire, so he doesn't know he's got the muscles.
He didn't know he could fly either. He can't see beneath his feet. Just right beneath his feet are clouds or smoke or something.
Fog or something, yeah.
Fog, probably. That California fog we know really well.
Mm-hmm.
And the boys, the vampires, they drop one at a time from the bridge, and he thinks they're dying. He thinks they're falling to their death. And so he's holding on for dear life, and he keeps trying to pull himself up. And then he hears them shouting, Michael.
Yeah, once the train goes by, they can...
Again, you will be dead by the time you get to this point.
Yeah, so don't
if you're drinking, if you're doing the drinking game, because they yell Michael like 200 times in the background. And then he eventually drops. And I think they did that really well, where it kind of goes, you know, this weird slow motion, kind of druggy kind of effect, where you don't see him actually flying. So it's still leaving it very ambiguous as to whether or not he's flying or falling really slow, and then he falls into his bed.
Yeah, so you're like...
So the night has gone on beyond that point. He just falls into his bed. So it cut again to this, you know, it gives you that sense that time has passed. And he made it back to his house, and he's really wiped out. So I think that was like really well done. The fear of the unknown is like a big thing in this movie because children all have it. And this is a coming of age film, basically, but with vampires. Mm-hmm. And that fear of the unknown is part of that. And I think that is a really interesting way for them to portray it in the film, is that railroad scene again, that bridge scene.
Yeah.
And it's actually, I think a lot of people use it as their thumbnail for this movie.
Yeah, of all the guys hanging off the trestle underneath. Yeah.
Which I didn't even notice that when I was, you know, like younger. I didn't notice that this movie's bridge scene was so like poignant. So at the time, it felt like it was just part of what the vampires are doing, and I didn't really place the importance on it I do now.
I think for me, I've always had a fear of heights, so it was very unsettling and uncomfortable. I don't like the dark because I don't like when I can't see things. So yes, I am a 50-year-old woman who's afraid of the dark. It is what it is. But also, the heights. So having the height and the fear of the unknown, that scene freaked me out, I think, more than even like the scene when the guy sinks his teeth into the bald dude's head and rips his skin off. That was
a really good... When David bit into the top of the guy's head, that was really impactful. I'm like, holy shit, they're not playing around. That's not just neck bite.
They're not like ripping out throats. They're like full-blown massacre.
They're not just like biting the neck. They're ripping out throats. They're
ripping out throats.
You know, they're actually literally biting into their heads and stuff.
But I also kind of like, and this is me, I'm going to get a little deeper into a movie that's probably as shallow as a teaspoon, but that to me shows... So there's something that Max says, and it's about how boys need a mother. You know, they need a mother to teach them, blah, 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 blah. So basically what he's looking for, and maybe that's what he means when he says he's planned this out, was him looking for a mother for the boys. So...
But he also wanted to add Michael, and he does say he wanted to add Michael and, Corey's... Sam. He wanted to add Michael and Sam to the family.
Yeah.
So that's the whole point, was not just one or two of them. He wanted all three of them.
Okay, so I'm going to make a really obscure reference to show you my example. The movie Overboard with Goldie Hawn. The boys were raised without a mom because mom was gone, and they were wild. They were feral babies. And now let's go back to the Lost Boys, and Max's quote unquote boys are out there. They're not just, you know, sustaining themselves off of the blood of others. No, they're out there freaking vandalizing bodies, basically. They are destroying these humans. They're out there fucking around and finding out. And maybe, it's kind of that if they had a mother, they would know how to behave kind of a thing.
Yeah, again, very cis,
I've let
heteronormative.
He's like, I've let them be boys, and here we are. We've got them. I just don't know how to contain these
Men
unruly.
just don't know how to do these
They just don't know how to raise boys right these days.
Yeah, it's women's work.
It is, and especially vampire boys. You just can't raise them right these days in the 80s in Santa Carla.
But I actually found I did not have, I have a fear of heights, a very pronounced fear of heights, but I had no fear of the bridge scene because I don't have a fear of the unknown. See, for me, the fear of heights comes from calculation of cause and effect.
Yes.
So I'm calculating the impact and the significance in which that impact will affect me.
Mm-hmm.
That's the scary part, is when I calculate terminal velocity.
Okay.
That's my fear, is not the heights. My fear is the landing. And to what degree I will be hurt by that landing.
And see, somebody had said to me years ago that you really shouldn't be afraid of the dark because you shouldn't fear what you can't see. Well, see, that makes me fear it even more.
Yeah, see, I don't fear it.
Because you don't know what's in the dark. So not being able to see.
Yeah.
That could be many, many things, but I just don't like
I'm just saying
seeing.
That's the difference between how we view that scene.
Yeah.
Is I don't fear the unknown, so I don't fear that scene. In fact, I feel comforted by the fact that there's fog there, because if it's unknown, I can't calculate it.
True. It's still never been one of my favorite scenes. Because
so as I fall, I could do the calculations, but at that point it's too late. So there's nothing to really fear there either.
Yeah.
You're just falling. There's absolutely nothing you can do about it except maybe try to fly. And if that is the case, I will try to miss the ground. I hear that is the secret of flight.
I mean,
as per Douglas Adams.
Wait, what is the quote from Toy Story? It's not flying, it's falling with style.
Yeah, pretty much. As we get through the film, we get to where Max has had successive tries to date Lucy. Mm-hmm. And they have all failed in one way or another.
Yes.
And you really get the sense that he is trying really hard. Before you find out he's the head vampire, he's trying very hard to date this woman that he barely knows.
Yeah.
And he's like, I guess, an important figure in town, but he only shows up at night. But you don't know that until later.
Yeah.
Because they don't show any context for the scenes.
Though you kind of get the impression that something's not right with Max when she feels bad about the failed dinner at her house, and when the boys give him the garlic and everything. And she goes to bring him, I guess, a bottle of wine, and the dog...
Cujo's.
Yes, Cujo's her. And he doesn't look like a dog who could, mess things up. He looks like a sweet guy, a Thorn. I mean...
And he was breaking through the fence.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, honestly, though, I was like looking at him going, how does that bark come out of that dog? Because that sound does not sound like a sound that should come out of that chest. Yeah. I mean, our dog, she looks like she should probably have a deeper voice, but no, she sounds like a shrill monster child. And, we could have gotten a Chihuahua and had a better time of it than this little mini pit. So
I think that, the movie itself has so many themes that are all kind of tied to one particular theme, which is like that of rebellion versus, acceptance of one's position. Mm-hmm. And you got, the hierarchy. Yeah. There's definitely a hierarchy of Max and then David and then the boys who follow David, who then follows Max. And you have Michael, Michael, when they say Michael, and you have to keep drinking every time I say it. He is the outlier. He's the one that's going to break the cycle. Yeah. So he is the rebellious nature, even though they're pretending to rebel because they're walking the boardwalk and leather, jackets and they pick fights and stuff. they're really just, if you can see it, they're conforming to the people around them.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone there is wearing leather jackets.
Yeah, they're all a bunch of hoodlums.
In fact, Michael buys a leather jacket.
On the boardwalk.
After he gets into well, not a tussle, but a confrontation with them in the first place.
Yeah.
So he, like everyone else on the boardwalk, is wearing leather jackets and wanting to get the earring and things like that. And it just, there's that conformity, that desire to conform, but you feel rebellious doing it.
Yeah.
You're only rebelling against yourself because you normally wouldn't wear that stuff.
I mean, yeah, I can see that.
So it's like when people say
I'm unique. I'm different. I'm like nobody else, except I have blue hair and the nose ring, just like every other girl.
I say that with my teal hair.
Blue hair and nose ring. Yeah, my nose ring. I really have a nose ring. So,
but no, what I'm getting at is when you're actively rebelling, you typically are just conforming more to the people within your peer group.
Oh, yeah.
And in this case, Michael ends up conforming to the peer group, and the only time he actually rebels against them is when he divests himself of the impulses that they have laid on him. Mm-hmm. Wow, I just said like a whole bunch of successive things in a row. When you rebel against something, you cannot say that you're an anarchist and own the anarchist cookbook.
Yeah.
So you can't buy a leather jacket and wear it amongst a crowd of people wearing leather jackets and declare yourself a rebel. You're one of the many.
Yes.
In order to rebel, he would have to wear a pinstripe suit.
True.
No one else there is wearing that. That would be a rebellion of sorts, a fashion rebellion.
Yeah.
If he wanted to rebel in attitude, he'd be an affable, easygoing guy because none of these motherfuckers are.
Yeah. And other than Michael's like underlying quote unquote teenage angst, he's actually a good kid. And so is Sam. And they're good brothers. Because like when Diane...
Well, that's the part where the rebellion actually comes into play, is when he doesn't want to kill anyone. Mm-hmm. He doesn't follow the crowd. That's the actual true act of rebellion.
Because I like when, the relationship, even though I really wish that Lucy had more of a relationship on screen with her boys, that she didn't doubt them and things like that. I guess if my kids called me up and said, hey, Mom, the person that you're trying to hook up with is a vampire, I'd be like, really? But I understand that kind of skepticism. And she does drop everything to run to her boys when she thinks something is happening.
Yeah, but you get the sense that she drops it, not because, she cares
she
about
ran
her
out
kids,
of that restaurant.
But it seems like also she just went through a divorce. Is she really ready to have a relationship? Maybe she was a lot easier to do that because she just wasn't ready for a relationship.
And that totally could be. But I did appreciate when she tells Michael, are we still friends? Part of me loves that and part of me hates that. So the part of me that loves that loves the relationship that she has with her children because she obviously cares and you can see that she cares. The part of me that hates that is the part of me that sees children all the time who are raised by people who are quote unquote their best friend. And to me, that's not a healthy relationship because you should not be your child's best friend. You should have your own friends and they should have their friends and you should be mom or you should be dad.
I think that falls into Lucy's very passive parenting style.
Yeah, I could agree with that.
So I think that's just the way her character is. I think that a lot of times, a lot of people fall into that trap. Mm-hmm. And then they don't want to be the bad guy.
Yeah.
Especially if they've gone through a divorce.
Yeah.
So I think that tracks for Lucy.
Yeah. And she is very, even like with her, like you said, her tone of voice and everything, she's very passive sounding. She just has that just soft, calm demeanor. I'm pretty sure she never really screamed at her kids.
Right.
I had a screaming argument with a 2-year-old. I was very young, and he was my first child. So there we go.
I had a screaming fight with the cat. He
That
did
was
not
yesterday.
scream back. He just looked at me.
And that was yesterday.
What do you think about this movie now as opposed to when you saw it the first time?
I found it funnier.
So what has changed?
I did find it funnier because I didn't remember. I remember having funny moments. I didn't remember how many there were. Again, totally forgot about the bathtub scene. And that was funny. I had a lot of nostalgia for it. So it was still nostalgic for me. I remembered, because again, I don't remember the last time I saw this movie, but watching it and remembering lines and songs and thinking, oh yeah, my friend used to say that, and wow, we used to recite that part all the time, because that was the thing that we did. We would take a movie and say the lines.
I think everyone did that, yeah.
And yes, it's got issues. I'm not going to call it problematic. I will call it problematic in the sense that, yes, it does not have a diverse cast. I don't think it's problematic. Like, there's no racism or hatred. There's no homophobia.
Well, if you take all the black people out, there's no black people to be mad at.
Okay, so there's that.
No,
but it's
I'm
not
saying
problematic. It's not like with
it's
Short
the film
Circuit.
that it is.
Yeah, it is what it is.
They didn't
So
create
that's one of those ones
blackface or anything. No,
it's one of those things where we can literally say it is what it is and it not be offensive. It's not an offensive movie, so it should have more diversity, but it's not offensive.
I think that in the places where there should have been diversity, they didn't apply it. And in the places where it had active reason to have diversity, they actively didn't apply it. David and Michael, the tension that was there that never really went anywhere. But I don't fault necessarily.
But it wasn't queer baiting. It wasn't queer
No,
baiting.
it wasn't queer baiting. You had to invent that. You really have to work at that to get to it.
Ace Merrill.
But I think it was there to be had.
Yeah.
If there was someone writing the film who had actually thought about this and had actually any intent outside of the heteronormative, cisgendered thinking, that they probably would have written something more in there.
Oh,
even maybe some queer baiting. But there wasn't any of that because what you get or what you apply. So when the looks are given, you're applying that in your own head that they must be looking at each other that way. For instead of anger, it's lust or whatever, or attraction or, teasing or whatever it may be. And I apply that because I think that would be the more interesting film, because I just don't think that Star was really needed or was given enough to do. Jamie Gertz was not given enough to do.
No, honestly. And I'm saying this from somebody who barely remembers this movie, only saying it in the sense that it's a funny thing to bring up. But I feel in my heart that she had a better role in Solar Babies.
Yeah, or Less Than Zero.
Yes. I was going for the more stupid of the two.
Yeah, I think she actually had a pretty good part in Twister. She wasn't a foil. I think in Twister she had a good part because she wasn't the bad guy.
No, she wasn't.
And I liked that. I enjoyed the fact that the new relationship wasn't the bad guy.
Yeah.
I always like those when they turn those on their head.
Yeah.
So, when we're talking about this film, and I'm looking back on it from my point of view, initially I was excited about it because it was a vampire movie and you didn't get a lot of those at that time that were more about the teenagers and less about the adults. You know what I mean? This was one of those that was written for the teenager in mind.
Oh, yeah.
This is teenage rebellion, not adult rebellion against, a placid life or whatever. This wasn't about the adults. It was about the teenagers. And I enjoyed that as a kid, as a teenager myself then. Looking back on it now, I am still really happy with the film as far as like the main themes and the movie itself. I think it did well. I notice a lot more stiltedness to the script.
Yes.
But that's
Plot holes.
well, not. I mean, there are holes to it, but I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about like the way it's edited, I think may have been a choice.
Yeah.
But it is very stilted in many scenes where it seems to just, there's a plane between the scenes. It's just very cut off.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem like they meld very well. And that could be a time constraint issue or whatever, but I'm not faulting that.
No.
What I'm saying is a style choice. I do like the way they made the scenery or the background actors, the people in it, all seem to have the same kind of genre. They all seem to flow into one another, so you don't notice them as much.
Yeah.
The crowd was kind of all part of that whole scene.
Yeah.
So they all hung out together, which would be kind of what you would expect.
Yeah.
And so I really like that. I think maybe they should have had more tourists about, with cameras, little shorts, weird stuff.
Yeah,
but it was all mostly
boardwalk.
on nighttime. So, but I think that overall, I was really still happy with the film. I think it still evoked the same kind of things in me I felt back then, although different now, because I was very jealous of Star.
Oh.
I was very jealous that she got to be so pretty and she got to wear what she wanted and she got to be herself.
Oh, definitely.
And I felt that way about a lot of girls when I was when I was 17.
Mm-hmm.
But now looking back at it, I am jealous of her for being so pretty, but not much else. I mean,
True.
I get to be me.
Yeah.
I get to be me as a fully realized person, which Star did not get to be.
No.
Star was the damsel in distress, which was kind of, it's been done. And she wasn't even really central to the distress.
No.
Really, it would have been more exciting had he saved David from himself.
Ew, David.
Having said all of that, how do you think it's going to do?
Oh, I feel like it is going to blow up and bomb. Yes, there are 2 named female characters.
Okay.
Star and Lucy.
And which of them had 5 lines?
I mean, I would say they both did. Oh, my God, this is going to pass, isn't it?
So Star had more than 5 lines, but not much more.
And Lucy had more than 5 lines.
Lucy had more than 5.
Oh, my God, this is going to pass.
Those characters must have a conversation, not necessarily with the other woman, either not about their partner or with their partner, future or current, and not about their relationship.
Oh. Now, Lucy and Max talk about her. Do they talk about her relationship and her husband?
She talks mostly to her boys.
Oh my God, this is going to pass. Star talks about being a vampire.
And not about their relationship.
And not about their Oh my God, this is passing the Castellini. I did not expect that.
With this mostly male, blow your mind.
With this mostly male cast.
This may be the one we'll debate on. At least one of the women has to be integral to the plot, meaning that if she were written out of the film, it could not reach the same ending.
Yeah, no, I don't think it would matter. You could take them where like the parents were killed and they got shipped to their grandpa's house. So you don't have to have Lucy in the cast.
Do you need Star?
No, don't need Star either. Other than the fact that she got his attention, she got Michael's attention. It could have been David walking through that crowd and could have gotten Michael's
attention. If it wasn't heteronormative,
yes,
it definitely could have been David. He's a very cute guy.
It could have been any of them, even
to
Alex
him?
Winter. It could have been any of them. The dude with the hair, the long black hair. Oh my God, he was handsome.
Right.
White as can be, but I think he was supposed to look indigenous. But
I think that's what they were trying to go for.
I don't think he was. I didn't look.
I don't know. Mostly they just looked like they were playing in the band Rat.
Oh my God! Without they didn't have that big of hair, but they did have long hair.
It was their off night. They didn't tease it. So, given that, it is going to pass the Castellini test.
Oh my God!
Now, let's take this approach a little bit further. Does it pass the Castellini test if you apply logical progression beyond this point?
No.
Is it an equitable film for women, for everyone. It really isn't.
No.
Lucy is portrayed as a very not shallow, I shouldn't say that. Lucy is not a shallow character. She is a very demure character.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess you can be demure and still have your own will, but she gives in at the end very easily to Max.
She really does. I mean, is it sad that I want to now compare, not only with the Castellini, but I want to compare all movies to Tremors? Because Tremors was
a very feminist film.
Very feminist, very diverse. Yes, I kind of feel like it is.
It's how a movie can be done well and still be exciting and fun.
It was practically perfect in every way. It is a Mary Poppins of a movie.
Even better than Mary Poppins.
Exactly.
So applying the logic beyond this, if you extrapolate beyond these three rules and look at it, Star does not have a position of anything other than her relationship to Michael.
Yes.
And her distress.
And her protection of Laddie.
Michael saving her.
Even Laddie doesn't need to be there.
Right. So I don't think it passes the Castellini test for those reasons.
No, not for that.
But definitely not because of the last reason. It does not pass because neither of these women were integral to the plot.
They really weren't, yeah.
And as far as like diversity, there really was none of any kind, really.
But it's just still, it blows my mind though that they pass on the first.
It got very close. I was actually getting worried. I thought that we would have but really when you look at it, when you get down to those rules, you really realize it does not.
No, yeah.
It clears a couple of hurdles, but it cannot pass the final hurdle.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the Lost Boys does not pass the Castellini test.
No.
What do you think about Joel Schumacher's direction on this film?
I think again, without knowing the reasons why the movie only took 21 days, I feel like
maybe something we should have looked up.
He should have just taken maybe 5 more.
Probably. Again, there could have been scheduling conflicts. There could have been a lot of conflicts with the filming of the area. True. A lot of that could have really pushed that. I think that Grandpa helped make this film.
Definitely.
Especially with the one hits. You know, like what I hate about this area is all the damn vampires.
Yes. And
I think that the music played a big role in this film.
And I forgot how much I love the songs in this movie. I was just digging it. And even like the Thou Shalt Not in the beginning, the Cry Little Sister, I forgot about it. And I'm like, how did I forget that? We sang it all the time.
You're really going to get a microcosm of the 80s music.
Yeah, In Excess. You get Walk This Way with Run DMC and Aerosmith. I mean,
a really odd placement, I have to add.
It was at the biker, whatever that was, the campfire.
It was very weird that I guess bikers, we're calling them bikers.
I think they
hoodlums
were bikers
of some kind.
It reminds, so where I grew up, there was this place. It was a military area, and we weren't supposed to be back there. I'm not going to say the name of the place because if you know, you know. But we used to go back there, and one night we were hanging out because we would go back and ride our trucks through the trails and stuff. And some people would actually during the day go back there and swim, but people died in the lake because it was a man-made lake with silicone sand and everything. But one night we were back there, and a bunch of bikers were back there having a bonfire. A lot of bees in this story, but they chased us out, and we actually were parked on the side of the road with the lights out, hiding in the seats so the bikers would go past us because they chased us out of this military area. And it was just a freaking, I don't even know what the fuck it was. I have to really look that up because as a kid, I never cared. And now as an adult, I'm like, what the hell was that place?
And now you know that those were vampires.
Those were vampires. Oh my God. So next time, we're going to discuss the movie. Can't tell you what it is. Here's your hints. 2 hints. Might give it away. It is the main character of this movie played the flute since elementary school. Sounds obscure, but wait for the second clue. Both main characters were inspired by real-life people, Mort Krim and Jessica Savage. And if you can't figure that out, I don't know. I can't help you. But those are the 2 clues I got for you for our next movie. I'm excited about it.
Sounds good.
So if you want to watch this movie and check out what all the nostalgia is about, if you've never seen it or if you just want to remember, you can find it on Roku, Amazon, YouTube, Google, Apple TV, and Fandango. And you can rent it between $3.79 and $3.99.
Thank you for sharing this journey with us through the 1987 comedy horror film, The Lost Boys. This has been Once More with Feelings with Beth and Michelle. You can find us wherever you listen to podcasts, everywhere. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Blue Sky at OMWFPod. Visit our page at oncemorewithfeelings.podbean.com or send us an email at omwfpod@gmail.com. Take a moment to subscribe and rate us on iTunes.
So until next time, stay safe out there.
Bye, everyone.
Watch out for the vampires.
All the damn vampires.
Mike, what happened?
Nanook.
What about Nanook? What'd you do to my dog, you asshole?
Nothing. I didn't hurt him. He bit me. This is my blood.
Why'd he bite you, Mike? Huh? What'd you do to him?
He was protecting you.
Look at your reflection in the mirror. You're a creature of the night, Michael. Just like out of a comic book. You're a vampire, Michael. My own brother, a goddamn shit-sucking vampire. Oh, you wait till Mom finds out, buddy.